The Anunnaki are real, but to figure out who they actually were, we have to bypass modern pop culture and read the 4,000-year-old texts directly. Between 4000 and 3000 BC, the Sumerian people established a civilization of firsts. They built the earliest known urban centers like Ur and Eridu, codified the first legal frameworks to govern society, and invented the cuneiform system of writing. Of the roughly 500,000 clay tablets excavated from the sands of the Near East, 95% are mundane administrative records, receipts for grain, lists of workers, and contracts. A precious 1% contain the world's oldest literature. These surviving fragments are not open to arbitrary interpretation. The language on these tablets adheres to the strict, definable rules of Sumerian and Akkadian grammar. Scholars can verify these definitions through the Mesopotamians' own linguistic records. The ancient scribes compiled their own bilingual dictionaries, explicitly translating their complex concepts into Akkadian, a language that has been understood by the academic community for over a century. The mystery surrounding the Sumerians isn't caused by a lack of data. It comes down to whether we are willing to listen to what the ancient scribes were explicitly telling us. When we consult the Sumerian textual corpus, the term Anunna, or Anunnaki, describes the highest gods in the pantheon. The literature contains no mentions of interstellar travel or origins beyond the Earth. This genealogical chart maps their hierarchy. In the original texts, they were supreme judges who governed the laws of the netherworld. In the Akkadian seal impressions above, we see them depicted strictly as spiritual authorities within their ancient religious context. The Babylonian creation story, the Enuma Elish, details their specific jurisdiction. In the text, the god Marduk organizes the Anunnaki into a cosmic bureaucracy. As this cosmological split screen illustrates, the text describes a highly structured spiritual world. Marduk assigned exactly 300 Anunnaki to duty in the heavens, and another 300 to oversee the netherworld. The genuine texts describe terrestrial managers and spiritual judges. They are figures of religious mythology, leaving no textual room for deep space astronauts. The central conflict of the Mesopotamian creation myth is surprisingly practical. It begins with the gods becoming exhausted by the manual labor required to maintain the earth. In the Enuma Elish, humanity is engineered as a solution to this labor dispute. The gods execute a rebel deity named Kingu, and from his blood they fashion humans specifically to bear the toil of the gods. An alternate Sumerian myth, the creation of the pickaxe, describes the god Enlil separating heaven and earth specifically to make room for human agriculture. The literature is explicit about the nature of this work. Humans were created to dig irrigation ditches, farm the land, and raise sheep. There is no mention of mining gold for planetary atmospheric repair. This myth served as a profound psychological tool. By framing the harshness of daily agricultural survival as a cosmic duty, the Sumerians gave their difficult lives a sense of divine purpose. In the late 20th century, a new interpretation of these texts moved from academic circles into the center of popular speculation. Zecharia Sitchin argued that the Anunnaki were not deities but extraterrestrial visitors. This orbital map contrasts the standard solar system with the core astronomical claim of Sitchin's theory. He proposed the existence of Nibiru, an undiscovered 12th planet on a massive, elliptical 3,600-year orbit. Sitchin proposed that these beings needed Earth's gold for their own planet and used genetic engineering to create a slave race to mine it. This narrative makes for a compelling science fiction premise. However, the theory is built on translations that bypass established roles of Sumerian and Akkadian languages. Scholars trained in ancient Semitic languages reject the alien hypothesis. The primary issue is that the theory violates basic cuneiform morphology and grammar. This typographic breakdown examines the Akkadian word Nibiru. Babylonian astronomical records show the term translates to a crossing or point of transition. Furthermore, the Mol-Apen cuneiform texts explicitly identify Nibiru as the planet Jupiter, or occasionally Mercury. The technological claims present logical flaws. If these beings possessed advanced physics for deep space travel, why do the alternative translations describe them using manual slave labor and primitive combustion engines? To believe the ancient alien theory, one must assume they understand Sumerian vocabulary better than the Mesopotamian scribes who actually used it. Stripping away the science fiction reveals a legacy that is actually more impactful. These texts provided the foundational blueprint for Western religion. This linguistic visualization connects the plural Mesopotamian Anuna to the Hebrew word Elohim. As demonstrated in the Amarna texts, ancient Near Eastern grammar evolved to use a plural word for gods to refer to a single supreme deity. These connections go beyond words. The Sumerian accounts of a great flood and the creation of humanity from clay provide the direct literary archetypes for the parallel narratives found in the Book of Genesis. The Sumerians did not leave behind extraterrestrial technology. They left behind the spiritual and literary DNA that built the world's major religions. Scholars are still stumped by a genuine mystery known as the Sumerian problem. Their language is a total isolate, showing no relationship to any other known human language family. One theory suggests the Sumerians migrated into Mesopotamia, fleeing rising sea levels in the Persian Gulf, a once dry basin before the last ice age. Despite our dictionaries, the exact identity of the Anunnaki remains a puzzle. Different city-states maintained highly conflicting lists of who these gods were. The scale of the challenge is evident here. With millions of fragmented tablets scattered across the desert, creating a single, unified canon remains nearly impossible. The true mystery is how a people with an isolated language and conflicting local gods managed to establish the very foundation of human civilization. We live in an unbroken 4,000-year line of influence. A culture that vanished millennia ago still dictates the narrative structure of our religions and the fundamental way we preserve human laws. The historical facts recorded in the clay are far more significant than the science fiction stories of the 20th century. We invite you to weigh the peer-reviewed translations of the scribes against the popular alternative theories. The Anunnaki weren't aliens. They were the first draft of human spirituality. Subscribe and comment below with which version you find more compelling.